Welcome back to another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Today, I'm joined by a special guest. His name is Craig, the Travel Junkie. He's the host of his own podcast, the Layover Podcast, and he travels all over from Latin America to Africa and does a lot of cool stuff. So we connected on Twitter and I invited him on, and Craig, thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thanks a lot, Vance. I appreciate you getting me on, man. Like I said, I follow your stuff on Twitter, man. I think it's pretty cool. So, I'm just excited about the opportunity to sit down and talk to you and chat with you, man. I can talk travel all day long. So,
You have a good voice and you got that kind of Chicago vibe. I think you're from Chicago, so I feel like you can talk about anything all day.
yeah, pretty much, man.
And I know that you just landed in Atlanta, right? You just had a flight. Where did you fly in from?
So, I was in Colombia last week, well, early last week, and then I left Colombia and went to DC. So, I
Hmm.
literally just flew in to Atlanta from DC. And I'll be here just maybe till like Sunday, and then I'm headed back out again. I got like some domestic stuff that I'm doing. I got to go back to DC. Then I'm doing Florida. Then I'm doing Dallas, and then I'm going back over to Costa Rica, and then from Costa Rica going back down to Cartagena, Colombia. So yeah, I'm just
Hmm.
trying to spend as much time as I can, man, while it's winter in like warm places.
I agree with that. That's definitely one of my life philosophies as well, is avoiding winter.
Yep.
So, and we'll definitely talk about Cartagena, and we'll definitely talk about some of your favorite spots in Latin America. But I thought it'd be useful to give a little background on yourself. I guess kind of where you came from and what projects and stuff you're working on today.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. So I still split time between Chicago and Atlanta. So I have a house in Atlanta, apartment in Chicago, and I've been splitting time between those two cities for probably about the last 3 years. I also keep a place in Costa Rica as well too, in the Heredia area, like right outside the San Jose airport. So probably like seven, maybe
Hmm.
10 minutes away from San Jose airport. For obvious reasons. One, because of the people, because of the weather, the food, all of that good stuff. And then, I've been traveling ever since I was a kid. My mom and dad took me on my first flight. Like if you see my bio, they took me on my first plane ride back when I was probably like 8 or 9. Went to Disneyland in California, and I've been hooked flying ever since, man. So to date, I've been to 64 countries, countless cities. I got a lot more to go, a lot more I want to do. And that's pretty much me. And then, I took that love of traveling and turned it into a business. So I do my blogging, podcasting, as well as travel consulting, as well as I do group trips as well, too. So, yeah, I just took that love of travel and just kind of parlayed it into quite a few other things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you've been to more countries than I have. I almost don't know what direction to go first because I want to ask you about a lot of that stuff about monetizing as a travel blogger. I want to ask you about the group trips. I want to ask you about travel consultancy. So actually, I kind of want to start there. What does travel consultancy look like? You help other people book trips,
Yeah.
or
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So, like for example, say if you come to me and say, "Hey, Craig, I want to take a trip with my husband or wife or the fellas or whatever, and we don't know where we want to go." Well, that's where the consultancy comes in. So I just sit down, schedule a session, and sit down with you, which would be you as the lead traveler, and just say, "Okay, Vance, tell me what you guys like. Do you like beaches? Do you like mountains? Do you like shark diving? Do you like cave diving? Do you like
Mhm.
hiking? Do you just want to sit on the beach and drink drinks, sip drinks, whatever you want to do?" And then as we're having that conversation, I'm pulling information out of you. I'm kind of going through my mind, okay, where's the best place to send these guys? Or where's the best place to send these people? And then from there, I continue to just kind of consult with you. Okay, well, based on what you told me, I think these are probably three good destinations that you'll like. Within these three destinations, here are some, in very high level, here are some of the rules of the government or the rules of the
Mhm.
country over there, to determine whether or not you like it. For example, you know, if I get somebody and they want to go on a trip and they just want to sip drinks and all of that, well, I probably wouldn't send you to the Maldives because, as you know, it's a Muslim country and so they don't have a lot of alcohol. So, I probably wouldn't send you there. I'd send you somewhere else, So I take a lot of that into account. So that's what the consultancy piece looks like.
Okay. And I ask because it's something that I think about potentially offering as a service as well.
Hmm.
Because, My Latin Life, we're really known for our city guides and our articles sort of explaining, kind of breaking down like the differences between places or what neighborhood to stay in various cities, things like that. So people are literally constantly asking me where to stay, what's a good, like, off the beaten path city, things like that. And I've definitely thought about offering a service, but it would have to be worth my time. What is like the business model for a travel consultancy look like? How much are you charging? What's the model? And then, like, are you actually booking the Airbnbs and stuff, or are you just sort of providing recommendations?
Yeah, so it just depends. Like, for example, the prices range. So, like, if I get someone, let's say they're fresh out of college and they want to go on like a college trip or something like that, well, I'm
Hmm.
not going to charge them too much because, hey, they're struggling college students. I get it. But if somebody comes to me from a Fortune 500 company and they say, hey, I got 30 people and we want to go XYZ, then the fee may be a little different for them,
Hmm.
obviously a little higher. So it pays itself, and a lot of times what I do is I just bake my charges into what I put together for them. So if they come to me and I consult with them and they say, okay, yeah, I want to do this. Can you take care of this for me? I absolutely can, and then I'll put together the whole package for them, soup to nuts. Even down to having car service or whatever coming to your house, picking you up, taking you to the
Hmm.
airport. I take care of the airlines, cruise lines, whatever you need, and as well as lodging on the ground, hotels, Airbnbs, all of that good stuff. And then I just charge a fee.
Okay, okay. So you kind of like put it together as a package and sell like a package deal, and then
Yep.
the client ultimately might not know like what kind of margin you're making because they're not like seeing everything.
Yeah. And I'll show them everything high level in terms of what services we're going to use in terms of hotel, resort,
Yeah.
supplier for things that to do on the ground and all that. So they'll get all of that. But then again, like I said, I just charge a fee on top of it. So.
Yeah, it makes sense. And do you like, because it takes a lot of time to put together like a plan for someone, look things up, all that. Do they have to put like a little bit of a deposit down beforehand? What if they don't like the plan?
No, I used to think about putting a deposit down, Vance, but I love doing this so much. So I don't have to really think about taking a deposit from someone because if you use me to book with me, like I said, I'll get it back once I just put my margin in there. And it's worked pretty well for me. So um, like I said, it just works.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because I like it's. I literally consider myself like one of the best in the world at booking Airbnbs and knowing like logistically like where to stay.
Yeah.
For example, the past couple of months I've been staying with some buddies, and whenever I get tired of planning every little thing, I'm like, you know what? You just plan it. Just like send me some Airbnb links. And then I look at what they send me and I'm like, no, this is like not within walking distance of the beach. This is not within walking distance of the club. Like
Right.
it's all these different things. And so, yeah, so I've always considered potentially offering a service like that. How do
It's
you,
funny. Oh,
good?
go ahead. Not to interrupt. It's funny you say that because one of the biggest things I always get from people is, "Hey, I want to go somewhere and I want to just be immersed or submerged in the culture. I want to be around the people, right?" And they'll say all of these good things, and then they'll say, "But can you book me a hotel in the city center?" I'm like, "Well, you do know the locals don't hang out in the city center."
Hmm.
And that's one of the biggest things that I always get. And I think that's pretty funny when people say that. I want to hang out with the locals, but I want to be in the city center too. So you can't have it both ways. You want to be with the locals or you want to be in the city center with the tourists.
Well, it comes down to knowing the city as well, because there are cities where the city center is full of life,
Yeah.
and there are city centers where it's super dangerous or just completely dead, like
Yeah, I get
Dallas or
that
something.
too. Yeah.
um, Interesting. And then how would you like acquire those customers, or where do people come to you to book the consultancy stuff?
Yeah. So a lot of times it's just word of mouth. So I've been doing this. Uh, Probably since like a little, well, let's say 2015, but
Hmm.
2017 is when I actually turned it into a business. So I've been doing it that long, and so a lot of my customers are word of mouth, repeat customers. I've
Hmm.
built a niche in terms of one of the things that helps me out, Vance, is because I've been to a lot of countries, so I can kind of personalize something real well for someone. So if someone says, "Hey, I want to go to Paris," oh, I can take care of that for you. As a matter of fact, what do you want to do? Okay, it's best if you stay here, and then you can go see this, you can go see that. And because I've been so many places so many times, I can even break it all the way down to you like street sign. Like, hey, you're gonna look for this green sign, and when you get the green sign, turn right, and then it's gonna be a red broke down car over there. At that car, look to the left, and there's the lodge. All this stuff, and people love that personalization. So how I get, like I said, to answer your question, a lot of my clients are just word of mouth and just repeat business. So.
That's awesome. That's definitely the best way to do it. Because when I look at like your presence and like your link tree, there's no link to like sign up for the consultancy stuff. So it must be
Yep.
very word of mouth based.
Yep, it is. It is. Now, that's one of the things that I'm working on now. Like, I have a company redoing my entire website right now as we speak. And one
Hmm.
of the things that they're going to put on there is like, when you click on the website, you can sign up to the email list. And so, of course, once you sign up to the email list, then we have a newsletter now. And we'll start sending out our newsletter as well, too. And in that newsletter, it will have like solicitations about, hey, we offer this particular service, i.e., consultancy. So if there's somewhere you want to go and you're having trouble, give us a call, hit us up, and we'll sit down with you and we'll work that out for you. So,
Awesome. And Craig, I promise that we'll move on and get to some other topics. Maybe people find this interesting, but because I definitely have another question or two about this because
sure.
I am really considering this. So let's just say someone DMs me on Twitter and they're like, "Hey, I want to go to like the center of Mexico, some off the beaten path cities in the center of Mexico. Maybe post up for a month, be a digital nomad, blah blah blah." And then I'm like, okay, I can do like a concierge type package for you. I can put it together, Airbnb, blah, blah, blah. Do I have to like present them the whole package or do I have to and present them sort of like the final cost and then they sort of yay or nay it? Or do I how would you do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one of the first things I do, just so, I don't spin my wheels, is I ask the people up front, what's your per person budget? Because
Hmm.
that kind of helps right there. So when we first start
Hmm.
talking and you tell me high level, oh, I think I want to do this. Okay, fine. How much do you think you want to spend per person? And then they'll say, oh, I want to spend $2,000 or 2,500. Okay, fine. Now I know what I can work with. And then from there, I go and find, what they ask for. If you want 3 star, if you want 4 star, if you want to sit on the beach, or if you want to go horseback riding, or if you want to go cave diving and you want to go shark diving, or if you want to go to see the black, Madonna in Spain, or if you want to go to a winery. And then I take all of that and put it together under that budget that they gave.
Right. And then so let's say for those events, like it's cave diving or whatever it is, um, do you just kind of give them the recommendation and like the days that they're open and that kind of thing, or do you like full out like buy the tickets for them, or
Yeah,
how
no, I
like
take care of all of that. Yep. Because generally, if I'm going to suggest something for you, I've built a lot of relationships over time too with a lot of people on the ground, suppliers, and all of that. So if you call and say, "Hey, Craig, I want to go to Kenya. I want to go to the Masai Mara. And I want to do a safari." Perfect. I
yep.
got a guy over in Kenya. I can call. Hey, Wayne. And with his company. Hey, Wayne. Listen, I got 10 people want to come over there. I need a rate for 10 people. XYZ. These amount of days, and bam, and then I'll get a rate and then I'll take that, package it up with what, like I said, the customer asked for, and then give it back to them. So
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And we'll change topics, I promise. But yeah, that's
yeah, yeah.
interesting. It's kind of like a full concierge service. I was almost thinking of offering it where I would just have like really transparent margin and be
Mhm.
like, hey man, like I'll like book it all. And then I don't even know. I don't even know. It's something I think about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Cool, man. And then let's talk a bit about group trips then. It's kind of a decent segue. So you
Sure.
say that you do a lot of group trips, and I guess when I hear group trip, that sounds like a lot of people. That sounds like minimum like 6 people. And for context, that's kind of a little bit of a different form of travel that when I do than what I do. I almost feel like I'm mostly doing sort of lone wolf travel or doing what I want to do, and it's not really about like the group. And there's definitely pros and cons to both. For the past 2 months, I've been traveling with a couple buddies, kind of like a cycle, but kind of been a couple buddies the past 2 months, and so I've been getting used to sort of like small group travel, and it's totally different than like lone wolf travel because I feel like I have to organize everything for a group now. I have to, tell them to leave the apartment when I'm trying to record a podcast.
Right, right,
Um, I have, a couple dudes that keep trying to like hit on my girls and stuff like that. And I'm just like, yo, can you like talk to someone else? Like,
right,
God,
right.
like, shit like that. So, but, and then it sounds like what you're doing is like a more jovial, like big group type stuff. Or like, tell me a little bit about how you do group travel.
Yeah, yeah. So I do it all, and you're right. Groups can be anywhere from six up to. So the biggest group I've ever done and hosted was like a group of 75 people, and I thought it was amazing. We went to South Africa about 3, 4 years ago now, and we had an amazing time. I literally just got back from my last group trip, which was February around Valentine. We went down to Cartagena, as a matter of fact, Colombia. So I took a group. It
Hmm.
was 36 of us, and so we went down to Colombia, and we had an amazing time. I have my next group trip coming up. It's 34 of us, and we're going to Kenya and Zanzibar, and that is in June. But I love doing the group trips too, man, because like I said, one, because I have this love of travel, I love to introduce travel to other people as well too. And I love to introduce it to them through my eyes. So a lot of times when we do our group trips, I always throw stuff in there that people never thought about doing. Like for example,
Hmm.
like shark diving. Nobody thinks about going shark diving. You know what I mean? But when you throw that on an itinerary, people are scared of it. But when they go and they see it and experience it, they realize, oh, it wasn't that bad. I remember one year, probably about 6 years ago now, we went to Petra. We went to Jordan, and I put a Betwan camp on the itinerary. That's where you go and like you stand out in the desert, out by the mountains. With the guys that be out there herding the goats and all of that stuff like that. And so you're sleeping in tents and all of that. And prior to going, everybody talked about it like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know. And then when they got there in advance and they had the most amazing time, that was like the highlight of the trip. Everybody loved it. So I love doing group travels for a couple of reasons. That's one. One of the other reasons is whenever I come across a novice traveler, and just to hear them on the trip when they talk about where we are. Like we went down to Cartagena in February. I had a young
Hmm.
lady, she had never been out of the country. So this was her first international trip, right? And we were standing on the beach one day and she said, Craig, I gotta really thank you for this because like I've never traveled and I had all this anxiety and everything. And now it's like I'm standing here and it's like I'm just here, and I just never knew it was this easy and this fun. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So those are some of the reasons why I love doing group travels for responses like that from people. And then, like I said, just giving people an opportunity to see the world.
That's awesome. And so are these like we're I actually back when I was in university, I used to schedule like group trips for the university, and we'd go to Punta Cana or places like that in the Caribbean. And I'd kind of get my trip paid for if I signed up a whole bunch of people type of
Yep,
thing.
yep, yep.
Um, where do you like these big groups? Like where how do they all know each other? How do they come together?
So believe it or not, man, my best friend and I um, our Facebook page years ago, right? And we started our Facebook page. And just from people joining the group and the group
Hmm.
actually growing and getting bigger, that's just how like we've just been able to get like all of our followers to go on trips and customers to go on trips as well too. And that's just how it works. So like you'll go on the trip vans, you'll have a great time, then you'll come home, you'll tell your friends. Next thing you know, one of your friends is going on a trip. Next thing you know, a cousin of one of your friends is going, and then it just grows and grows.
So it's a bit people who don't know each other, just kind of from a Facebook community.
Yep, yep, from a Facebook community. And then a
And you say
lot of
we
my
have 30
trips,
spots left. We have XYZ spots left. Like sign
yep,
up soon, that kind of
Yep,
thing.
yep, yep. We package it all together, put it out there, put the whole link to our trip. And when you go to our
Hmm.
trip pages, it'll just lay it out for you in terms of like, what's the highlights, how many nights, the hotel we're staying at, all of the activities, everything, the price, single occupancy, double occupancy. And even throughout the years, Vance, on our group trips, we've had people that have just formed like lifelong friendships. Like I've had people that went on a trip, didn't even know each other, and they just happened to be rooming together. And now they've been on two or three other trips with us, and they're like almost best friends. So
I believe it. I believe it. Travel definitely brings people together, and I've made a lot of friends just in hotel lobbies and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so what would these and by the way, I also have been thinking I really want to start spinning up some Facebook groups. I've been really working hard in Q1 and kind of getting the socials going again for My Latin Life.
Yeah.
And I know, all I feel like the expat groups and stuff like that on Facebook are some of the most popular and vibrant groups and places where there's actually a lot of like really good local knowledge and hidden knowledge, and people are exchanging a lot of really, really good info. So let's just say, you wanted to sort of live full time in Cartagena or spend a month there. You just type on Facebook Cartagena for expats, Cartagena for digital nomads, things
Yep.
like that. Travel Cartagena, and you join in all these groups, and then you'd be able to check like an enormous backlog of posts. You could just search, see like what's the best area to stay in. What are the best bars, things like that, activities. It's really a wealth of information, and a lot of people are also pretty good at monetizing off these groups as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's one of the things we do, like I said. So that's what we did. We started the group and we grew it up to like just under 6,000 people. And then I'm also a moderator in another group called Road to 100 Countries. That group has about 25,000 people in it. So I post trips in both groups, my group, the Travel Junkie, as well as Road to 100 Countries. And so, like I said, from both of those, that's just how we get a lot of our people to go on the trips and stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. And we can put the links to the groups in the show notes. I definitely did want to ask you about Road to 100 Countries. Your main group or the one that you spun up, is it called the Travel Junkie or what's it called?
Yeah. The main group is called that I spun up is called the Travel Junkies, and then the Road to 100 Countries. That's a group that's actually owned and managed by a guy by the name of Ronnie Dunstan. So Ronnie and I are friends, and so Ronnie tapped me one day and was like, "Hey, Craig, I'm actually thinking about quitting like social media and this whole group stuff altogether. And if I do that, I'm thinking about just sending all my people over to you to the Travel Junkie." Then we kind of had some good conversations and talked about it. Then he was like, "Well, how about this? I'll just keep the group and then just give you like more admin, right? For you to do whatever you need to in the group. So that's how that came about. Me being a moderator over in the Road to 100 Countries group.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'd mention I still unreleased interview. It probably will be the one that comes out before yours. But I just this past week interviewed Rick Gazarian, who is the founder of Counting Countries,
Okay.
which is I don't know if you've heard of him or of Counting Countries. It's a podcast and community.
Yeah. No, I haven't heard of him, but I'll check him out though.
And it's almost more like they're like what's the word, competitive travelers, and they seek to not only go to 100 countries but to go to every country in the world.
Right.
And they have different sort of metrics. There's different sort of communities that have different metrics. There's 193 UN countries. There's a group called the TCC, I forget what it stands for, and they mark out like 336 unique regions of the world. There's another one called Nomad Mania, and they have like 1,200 or 1,900 like specific subregions of the world. And so there are people that have been to not only 193 countries. I think there's maybe 500 or 1,000 that have been to all of them. And
Right.
then there's also people that have been to all these like sub regions, and they're sort of like competing or at least tracking in a fun way, like who's like the most traveled person in the world, and they sort of rank it. And so I think it's really cool. And I think I mean, not that that's a reasonable like goal or something everyone can do, but it's sort of like intellectually interesting. And even like Road to 100 Countries is intellectually interesting as well, because there's a lot of growth that's going to happen to you if you pursue that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and like for me, like I say, even though it's road to 100 countries, people are exceeding that as well. Like
Hmm.
I'm just at 64, because I do a lot of repeats. Like for example, I've been to France, I've been to Paris literally 6 times. So if I didn't do Paris 6 times and did something else, I could be there. I've been to Spain 6 times.
Hmm.
I've been to Cartagena 4 times. I've been to Costa Rica 4 times. But I do that because I just love those places, so I love going back. But if I took all
Hmm.
of that energy and stopped doing repeats, I'd probably be at 100 by now. So
For sure. What's the country other than the States where you spent the most amount of time?
uh, I would probably say Costa Rica and Spain. I
Hmm.
probably spent collectively months over in each location. Now the country that I love to like just kind of set up shop and move to is probably Costa Rica. One because I mean the weather just all year round, obviously. Um, the dollar is pretty strong. The USD is pretty strong there. The food is amazing, because it's fresh. And one thing I love about Costa Rica, and I tell people, Costa Rica has no army. They have no military. And one thing that says is we don't bother anybody and nobody bothers us. You know what I mean? So I love that about Costa Rica.
Definitely. I haven't been to Costa Rica in a while. I personally prefer Panama. I got the Panama shirt on.
Yeah, yeah, I
Do you
see. I
find
see.
Costa Rica expensive these days, or cheaper than the States at least?
Yeah, it's way cheaper than the States. So it's not expensive at all, man. Like you can go down there and get like a 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartment, $600 a month, and sometimes less, so it's not expensive at all.
That's not bad. And I feel like the thing about Costa Rica is there's not a lot of clear choices of where to go. I mean, to some extent there is, but it's actually quite dispersed in terms of like the different towns. So there's Yaco or Jaco, Jaco, whatever.
Yeah,
There's
Hako.
Tamarindo. There's Puerto Viejo. There's a million
Yeah.
little spots. I used to go to Playa del Coco. Um, like, what do you think are some of the best beach towns in Costa Rica?
So I like Capos. Capos is very, very beachy, and it's nice. I like Uvita. Uvita has some good beaches as well too.
Hmm.
And the one thing I like about Uvita, and this is a little known fact that a lot of people probably don't know about Costa Rica, you got the Caribbean side, the Pacific side, right? So you
Yeah.
got the beaches on both sides. But Uvita and like the Pacific side, that's the only side where you have the mountain and the water running together. So you have mountains that come all the way right to the beach. And
Okay, I
that's the
like
one,
that.
yeah, one little known fact about the Pacific side. On the Caribbean side, I love it over there. Like maybe like Guanacosta is cool, but I like the jungle. I'm not really too much of a beach guy, but I do beaches because obviously group trips. A lot of people want to do beaches, stuff like that. But like if I had my say to live in like Costa Rica, it'll probably be like a little small town called La Bolsa. It's on the Caribbean side. It's between San Jose and La Fortuna, so it's probably like an hour and a half from San Jose by car, or La Fortuna RNL. I love that area as well too. So if I had to just put up a route in Costa Rica, it would probably be the Caribbean side, La Fortuna RNL.
Okay, La Fortuna. And
Yep.
then what's the other one you said? La Mosa, La Bolsa,
Oh, it's called La Bolsa. It's
La
LA.
Bolsa,
Yeah,
B O
BALSA.
L.
Yep.
Okay, okay,
BALSA. Yep, La
Balsa.
Balsa. Yeah, La Balsa.
Okay, cool. All right, so you're more of a jungle guy.
Yeah, yeah,
How
I love that.
I like it too. How in but sorry, I did want to ask. So for maybe people that are unfamiliar with Costa Rica, how would you sort of describe the Caribbean side versus the Pacific side in terms of the vibe?
Well, I mean, so the Pacific side, you're going to get, in my opinion, well, you can get both water and jungle on both. But the Pacific side, I would think you're going to get more beach, because like I said, like you mentioned, you got Jaco, and Jaco is pretty big. It's all beachy. And then past Jaco, if you're riding I think south of, you're going to run into Capos right behind that. And then right after you pass through Capos, then you're going to go through Costa Verde, which is like mountainous, but some beach
Hmm.
down there. And then you're going to hit Uvita, and then you can keep riding out all the way out to the very end where you meet Panama right at like Pasa Canoas and all of that stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I think that's the vibe on the Pacific side is more beach, I would think. Whereas when you go to the Caribbean side, if you're not right there like at Guanacaste because you're flying into Liberia, you're going to be more so like in the jungle, the forest, Monteverde, the cloud forest, all that stuff like that. So I think those are the two different vibes. The Pacific side, you'll get more beach. Caribbean side, you'll get more jungle. So
Okay. And by the way, on My Latin Life, we talk a lot about, second residencies, citizenships, passports, things like that. Have you looked into getting residency in Costa Rica?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's like three main ways, really four, but the three main ways for Costa Rica are purchase property $200,000 or more, and so if you purchase property $200,000 or more, you get immediate residency. Or if you have a pension. So, like, if you can show
Yeah.
where you have like a pension coming in, like, let's say if you work for a police department and you retire from the police department, or you retire from Sears or AT
Hmm.
and T or whatever, or you retire from the military, then you can get immediate as well. Or if you can just sit $65,000 in the bank for like 3 months, then you can get residency after that as well too. And those are like the three main ways. The fourth one, I mean, it's simple. If you find somebody and marry somebody, you can get residency that way.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it with the Costa Rica. I was holding off because um, they were changing the laws around taxation
Yeah,
around the end of 2021. They were thinking about switching back away from a territorial tax system model to like a residency taxation model, and that really scared all the expats who are already in Costa Rica. And they said, "Oh no, I don't want to, be taxed on my Canadian American assets and incomes and things like that." And I guess the pushback was significant enough. I haven't done like all the research, but from what I've heard, Costa Rica has sort of done the double take, and they decided to basically continue with the territorial tax system. Um, I don't know how much you know about that, but that seems to be the case. And so I'm once again considering doing the Costa Rica thing. Um, and I think I'd probably do the bank deposit one. I'm actually a big fan of residency by bank deposit because it's just so
yeah,
much easier.
yeah.
Um, do you know anything about? Do you remember that sort of tax scare or?
So I don't remember that, because when I met with my lawyer down there, we didn't talk about the taxes and all of that. We just really basically went over all of the things that you need to do to get the residency. And the one that appealed to me was the same one you were talking about, just just having money sitting in the bank, because that
Mhm.
was the easiest to do. I've also looked at property to purchase there as well too, but the easier for me was just sit the money in the bank, you know.
For sure. And yeah, I heard it was 60K, and the sort of reasoning behind that is because it's supposed to be sort of like 2 years worth of means. So it sort of works out that, you'd have maybe 1500 US to use as like living expenses.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at this again super recently. I do want to put together some info, but do you have to like take the money out like bit by bit, or and then like how do you even get it down there?
No, you don't have to take it out bit by bit at all. And the way when I was talking to the attorney, the way she explained it to me is you can even have it just sitting in an American account as long as you can verify like bank statements and send it to them, them meaning your attorney and all of that stuff
No
like that.
way.
Yeah, or you can just sit it in a Costa Rican bank, either one. And I was like, wow, that's like super easy to do.
No way. You can have it just sit in the States and just
Yep.
have it be like like a
Yeah.
notarized.
Yep. I asked her that specifically because I was like, do I have to bring it down here? She was like, no. She was like, no, you can keep it up there as long as you can produce a bank statement to show that it's there. I was like, that's easy to do.
Oh my God, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, then, like, what else did you kind of learn from speaking with lawyers in Costa Rica? Obviously, this is kind of like, you spend time in a bunch of Latin American countries, and we can talk about some of that stuff as well. But Costa Rica sounds like you're actually kind of making a base. You mentioned that that you got like a bit of an apartment set up and stuff. What else have you learned about the process of moving to Costa Rica and from speaking to lawyers and all that?
Well, one of the things that helps facilitate that process too is like, let's say if you come down and you do a business, right? And one of the businesses that are pretty big, like in Costa Rica, for like expats is language. So like, let's say if you came down there and you wanted to get into teaching English, like for me, I was born in the States, so English is my first language. So if I go to Costa Rica, to help facilitate my move, it would behoove me to start a business, an English speaking business. And all I'm doing is just teaching English, and that helps as well too. So that's one of the things that the attorney said. Yeah, if you have a business and you can make sure it's geared toward Costa Rica, such as English, that helps. One of the other things she said too, I remember her saying is like, if you have a business, you have to employ a certain
Hmm.
amount of Costa Rican citizens as well too. So like you can't just take your business down there and you have all your family members working for you. You have to employ them as well too, and that's one of the ways that they keep pumping money into their economy as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the bank deposit one's good. I'm literally going to look into uh, this thing about just having the money stay in the States, because that's
Yeah,
actually amazing. I have this dream because I have residency in Panama. Showing my anyone who's just watching the audio, I'm like flexing my Panama jersey right now.
right.
But but I thought it'd be pretty funny to be able to be a resident in Costa Rica and Panama, because then I like Bocas del Toro in Panama, and you
Yeah,
could just kind of like cruise back and forth between Puerto Viejo and Bocas del Toro, super easy. And Boquete, which is one of the nicer areas of Panama, is like right near the border too. And maybe some things are cheaper in Panama, some things are cheaper in Costa Rica, whatever. Friends on both sides, and it'd be cool to just be able to flow between the two.
yeah. That would be dope. That would be dope.
I have this rant, and what's funny is like all the Central American countries are actually like pretty easy to get residency in. They all have a pensionado visa, which is the pension based one you referred to. They all have a couple ones, and it'd be sort of funny if you got residency in like every Central American country, and so you could just do a straight shot to the States. Like you just be like good in the hood in every single one.
Yeah, literally, that would be fun. Yeah.
That'd be funny. Yeah. Um, I noticed, speaking of the rest of Central America, basically your most popular YouTube video is the chicken bus in Guatemala. What can you tell us about the chicken bus?
Oh, I thought that was fun, man. Every time I go somewhere, I love to do what they do. When in Rome, do like the Romans. And it was interesting when I went, obviously, because it was during the pandemic. And the chicken bus basically is a school bus. We've all, if you've been in the States, everybody's been on a school bus at some point in time in their life, right? So I thought it was pretty interesting because they actually get the school buses from the States, have them shipped over to Guatemala, and then they kind of cut them up and customize them. And then all of the names on the side of the bus are the names of the family. So it'll be like the Martinez family or the Rodriguez family, stuff like that. And then when you get on the bus, it's pretty standard, just like a school bus. They kept the same school bus seating. But when I went during the pandemic, I thought it was very interesting because they had like the stickers on the seat, like, okay, you can sit here, but nobody can sit here. You can sit here, nobody can sit here. So they were still recognizing like the whole social distancing and all of that stuff. And then they put the plastic up around the driver and all of that stuff just to make sure, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then the thing with the chicken buses that I like is so their system is, you have a driver and then you have a person that hangs out on the door. And so the person that hangs out on the door is the person that looks ahead to see if somebody's flagging them down to get on the bus. Like we have bus stops and they just have the street. So the person will stand at the corner and just wave. And then the guy in the door just tell the driver to stop. And then he'll get out and he'll take the person's money and then they get on. And so that's their system, whereas like in the States, it's all mechanical. You get on the bus, you stick your card in the bus or your coins or your dollars and it goes in. Well, they have an actual person that's standing there just hanging out the door grabbing your stuff. So I thought that was a cool experience.
And where was that bus to and from?
So we went from Central Antigua. So they have a bus terminal, just like like in the States, you have a Grand Central Station. All that they had a bus terminal called like their Central Station in Antigua. So we caught the bus from Antigua out to this city called Hocotenango. And we went out to Hocotenango to a cooking class. And so we got off the bus, then we crossed the street, went into this young lady's house. She took us upstairs and we did like a whole cooking class in her neighborhood and all of that. And it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, Guatemala in particular, I think even more so than other Latin countries, has a big bus culture.
Yeah.
Because
Huge bus.
I have a buddy that I went to college with, and he actually started like a bus company in Guatemala. And what they do is they did bus shuttles between Guatemala City and Antigua,
Yeah.
and also some beach town on the coast. But what they did differently or really cool is it was a school bus basically, but it was completely gutted and retrofitted to be like super high end and baller, and to be like so baller you don't even know you're on a school bus, and it'd be
Wow.
like
Nice.
I don't even know how to explain, but it'd be like leather couches, and like maybe there's like a TV with the Xbox, and I don't
Nice.
even know, like a wraparound couch, like not even like seats almost. It was like a whole, and it was like a whole experience. And I just remember him sharing like stories on Instagram of him like building the bus, and then the whole process, and then actually like getting it going. And it's like, currently it's been up and running for a couple of years now.
Oh, that
But
sounds
it,
pretty cool.
and sort of give me a window into the world of how Guatemala has like a really big bus culture.
Yeah. Yeah, they love buses down there. I mean, because like I said, that's their mode of transport. I mean, because even when I was there, you could see it how like Guatemala City, a lot of people, it's just like any other major city. Like let's say you're in Chicago. Well, you got Chicago, the city, and a lot of people work downtown, but then they live out south, north, whatever in the burbs. So it's the same thing, and the buses in Guatemala City, they have like their own central station there too, where you walk up and it's like a whole row of those school buses all decked out and tricked out and all of that. And then they have like the location where they're going, Antigua or Hocotenango or, a couple of other cities and stuff like that. And then you just pay your fare and you get on. And the bus ride may be about 45 minutes from Guatemala City all the way out to like those suburb cities like Antigua and Hocotenango and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how they do it, man. That's their big. That's how they get around. Unless you got a car. But
Hmm.
more people, I guess, are on buses and the bikes and all that versus the cars. So.
Yeah. And so what do you think have been your favorite cities in Latin America to visit?
Oh,
What are your top cities?
I like Quito, Ecuador.
Oh.
I love Banos as well too. Banos, Ecuador. Oh man, that's one of the most beautiful cities to me. Like so, Banos sits right down at the base of a volcano. And when I tell you that city is so colorful. Even the sidewalks, like they have like different colors on each block in the sidewalk. I mean, that city is amazing. It's so colorful. So I like Banos. I like Quito. Obviously I like some cities in Costa Rica as well too. I really love Cartagena. I mean, I've developed a special love for Cartagena in Colombia. It's just a very nice city to me. I like that. And then of course, like if you go further south, the Argentinas, the Brazils. I love Buenos Aires. I think it's amazing to. I think everybody should go to Buenos Aires one time in life and go see some real life tango. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That was amazing. And then Rio, of course. I think Rio is a beautiful city as well too. So yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, some beautiful cities in Central and South America. So.
You've had and I listened to a little bit of the layover podcast, and I noticed you had some guests that spent a lot of time in Rio and Brazil. So you spent some time down there?
Yeah. So I've been down to Rio about 4 times. One time in particular I can remember was Carnival. Man, I've done the Rio Carnival, pre-COVID. Ah, man, that was probably like one of the best experiences of my life, man. Just and like we actually bought tickets and went to the Samba Drome. We were sitting right there on the front row. I mean, thousands and thousands of people in the stands, and just to see how they do it, and literally, man, like the second night we went to the Samba Drome, it rained, so they postponed it. So let's say it was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, but it was a real bad thunderstorm, so they didn't get anything started until like 9 o'clock. Man, as we were out there and the sun was coming up. Like literally, we're in the stands partying and we having to look up and the sun was coming up. I'm like, I haven't done this since high school, college. You know what I mean? But yeah, Brazil was fun, man.
That's awesome. And I know Carnival in Barranquilla was just like last week or something. Did you
Yeah,
catch a bit
yeah.
of that?
I missed that. So I was just, and when I was down there, I was talking to my guy, Alex Rocha. He lives in Cartagena. And he was saying how we just missed it. And had I known, I would have booked the flight at a different time. But I just had so much other stuff going on. I didn't know. So,
Yeah, and the so and I don't I was it caught me off guard because I was at the carnival in Mazatlan just a couple weeks ago, which is the biggest carnival in Mexico. And so in my head, I was kind of assuming that all the carnivals would kind of be happening at the exact same time. But the Colombian carnival was slightly later. Is there a carnival in Cartagena and Barranquilla, or is it more primarily Barranquilla?
yeah, more in Barranquilla. So when I was talking to Alex, he said more in Barranquilla. That's the biggest one. That's the one that everybody knows, Barranquilla. So,
Okay. And speaking about Colombia, obviously Colombia is a very diverse country. It's got a lot of different cities that people can choose from. I know a lot of people that came away with a bad impression of Cartagena. I've heard that the like street vendors are pretty aggressive with the tourists and stuff like that. Um, like what what do you like about Cartagena? Do you think it's a good city for digital nomads to potentially post up? Do you think it's more of like a 1 week destination or potentially like a 1 month or longer destination?
just to touch on like the street vendors, and it's funny you say that because I had one of the young ladies when we came back from our trip in February, and I was posting pictures of one of the women in the group. She didn't go on the trip, but she just commented that she had been to Cartagena before, and she said the
Hmm.
same thing. Oh, the street vendors, they just would not leave us alone. It made me sick. I would never go back to Cartagena, and I found that strange because I've never had a problem with the street vendors in Cartagena. Sure, somebody will come up and ask for something. I'll just tell them no gracias and just keep it moving. And they don't follow me or bother me or anything like that. So I found it strange when she said that. Now, I'm not doubting that it happened, and I'm not doubting that it does happen. It's just
Hmm.
never happened to me. So that's why I just found it kind of strange. But to answer the other part about, how long you should stay, I think it just depends. I mean, I can set up shop in Cartagena for a month, because that's just how much I
Hmm.
loved it. I mean, the food is great.
Hmm.
It's very walkable, and that's what I love about it too. So you don't have to have a car. If you stay in certain areas, like if you go in like Boca Grande area, no car needed. If you stay like in Carrera, you don't need a car. I mean, so I love it for like some of those reasons. Or if you stayed in Getaway, you don't need a car. So that's one main things I love about Cartagena. You don't need a car. You can just walk everywhere. And then if you get tired of walking, just jump in a cab. Because everything's cheap down there. So
Hmm. And I've had a lot of guys on this podcast. I've had a couple of guys who are based up in Medellin, obviously a big digital nomad spot. But today, Craig, you're our Cartagena expert. And so if you were to post up in Cartagena, let's say for a month,
uh,
um, would you be posting up? I'm looking at a map now. Would you be posted up like basically on that peninsula thing, on Boca Grande or in
yeah,
Getsamani, and that sort of area where it's all kind of like more or less part of the peninsula?
yeah,
Or would you be somewhere sort of off the peninsula towards the town? Or I know that there's like more beaches sort of further like nearer to the airport. Or
yeah.
what would you recommend to someone who doesn't need like a lot of luxury, but they want sort of that balance of like they're willing to spend like a little bit, but they don't want to be too baller, but they still want to be kind of like close to bars and stuff like that and the
Yeah.
beach.
I would recommend the neighborhood Carrera, because that neighborhood, it's so the peninsula that you're talking about, that's Boca Grande, right? But so let's just say you got the wall city right here and Boca Grande is out here. Carrera is
Hmm.
on this side of the wall city. So literally it's about 10 minutes from the airport.
Hmm.
And it's right there on the beach. And then because it's right by the wall city,
Hmm.
you got your neighborhood Carrera, which is a nice, vibrant neighborhood mix of locals and some expats because it's like a lot of high rise buildings, but stuff is
Yep.
mad cheap over there, right? But then you can walk right into the wall, and you got everything you need right there in the wall: shop, stores, all of that stuff, and you got all that outside of the wall too. So I would recommend if you want to go and stay a good long while, and like
Hmm.
you can like let's say you stay a long while. So if there are days you want to come out and go to the beach right across the street, Carrera. If there are days where you just want to stay up in the house and not do anything, Carrera. So I would recommend like that Carrera area. So
Okay, and is that it looks like Carrera? It didn't really come up, but there's El Cabrero, which is sort of, I guess, sort of the start when you get off the peninsula, and then past that, you're sort of like there's like a river that sort of cuts right beyond behind the beach. Would you stay between the beach and the river, or would you stay sort of on, or where exactly?
for me, I'm not really a beach dude. So, but I know a lot of people are.
Uh huh.
So for me, I would probably do like that Cabrera neighborhood. Another neighborhood that's good for a lot of people that El Centro, so you can stay in El Centro. It's not bad. San Diego is not a bad neighborhood either, as well
I've heard a
too.
lot of good things about Getsemani,
Yeah, Getsemani is
but
cool. So
having like a
Getsemani
cool.
used to be a terrible neighborhood, but just like in the states, gentrification.
Hmm.
So they cleaned up Getsemani. And so now it's like a cool, happening, vibey area. So a lot of bars. It's a lot of small Airbnbs up in there. And don't be confused too. Over around Getsemani, like right inside the wall lot, it's some $1 million properties in there too. Like you're walking down those streets and you look at them, they don't look like $1 million, but they're a million
Hmm.
dollar property. And when you go inside, people have like just completely fixed them up, granite, high ceilings, nice kitchens and all of that stuff like that. So yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So it's pretty cool over there too.
Okay. Awesome. Cool, man. And before we get to an outro, I did actually want to come back to talk a little bit about Facebook groups and building a community because, um, it's not a small feat to build a 6,000 person Facebook group or to manage a 25,000 person Facebook group. Something that I'm considering doing in 2022, starting to build up that avenue. Uh, what have been sort of your like growth hacks, or what have you learned along the path of building a Facebook group and also maintaining a Facebook group?
Well, I think once you get it started, then it'll take over itself. So you're right, man. It's starting it and getting those first few initial people. I mean, you just got to do it in steps. Just set yourself some goals, man. Hey, I'm gonna push it out to this many people. I'm gonna offer this much content, and my goal is to get to 1,000 people by this date. And then
Hmm.
once you get to that 1,000 people, then solicit the group for help. Hey guys, listen, make sure you share the group with some of your friends and family and all of that stuff like that, because we're going to have some exciting news about travel and all of that. And people will do that. They'll start adding their friends and their family members to it and all of that stuff like that. And that's how you help grow it. You got to, like I said, put the work in yourself up front. But after that, it'll take legs of its own.
Yeah, I think if you hit like a certain critical mass and a certain point in the snowball,
Yeah.
then it will sort of take over and grow itself. I think the hardest part, just like anything, is getting started, getting the first 50, 100, 500 users and getting them actually engaged. I feel like some people even maybe create like several Facebook accounts and almost create like fake engagement and then like respond to their own like stuff just so
Yeah.
it looks like there's like just so it looks like there's movement and
Right.
activity in the group. Or like how was it in the early days for you?
In the early days, it was a long process. There were times where I was like, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm just tired of people. But then I just hung in there, man, because like I said, that my love of travel outweighed my um, level of frustration with people not being engaged. So, and I just kept persevering, man. Like I said, my love of travel. So I do everything in a group. We don't just talk about my groups in terms of our group trips and all that. We talk about travel news. For example, I just saw in the news today where Spirit Airlines is introducing facial recognition at the Atlanta airport. So I
Hmm.
found the link, found the article for that, posted it, and then we'll talk about that. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's just all things travel related, man. So it's not about just group trips and all that. It's information as well too. So
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Kind of keep topical with whatever's going
yeah,
on.
yeah. And then one of the other things that I found out that helps, man, is the scheduling. Meaning, you know how you can schedule posts.
Yep.
So a lot of times, what I'll do in the early days, what I would do, Vance, is I would get, let's say, like 5 or 6 link articles to whatever. Boeing is coming out with a new jet, or Delta is shutting down this airport, whatever the link is, right? And then I would schedule. I would be like on the weekends, and I would schedule them throughout the week. So I would schedule one link to drop Monday. I would schedule another link to drop Tuesday. Schedule another link to drop Thursday, and that
Hmm.
way I could schedule them and then forget about them, and then they would just drop, and you can schedule them at any time to drop, and so that helped early on a lot, utilizing the schedule button to schedule, your links to drop at certain times, so.
Hmm. And in terms of like discovery, like, after you've invited all of your, friends in your personal network and you
Yeah.
sort of maxed that out, I mean, obviously there's some SEO element where people just sort of search in the search bar for Facebook groups, but like how else are there like growth hacks, or do you like share the group in like Reddit or different forums or different places, or how can you get the group in front of people so that they join, and how do you like grow it?
Yeah, good question. So I haven't put it in Reddit or anything like that. One of the things that I do is I just keep, one of my friends years ago, she was helping me write something, and I was writing it, and she said, "Stick the Travel Junkie right here." I said, "Okay." And then in the next sentence, she said, "Stick the Travel Junkie right here too. Stick it right here too. Stick it right here too." She said, "You want to shove it down people's throat, because that's branding." And I was like, "You know what? You're right." She said, "I know I'm right." So she said, "Every time you're speaking, say the Travel Junkie, say the Travel Junkie, say the Travel Junkie." And if you keep saying that, after a while, people will just come up to you, Travel Junkie, and then they'll start looking for it themselves. And next thing you know, you've created this whole Travel Junkie, and everybody's looking for it on their own, and I think that works, So a lot of times when I'm writing stuff, or I'm writing proposals to hotels or suppliers and stuff, I stick the Travel Junkie in that big and bold about 5 or 6 times. You know what I mean? Just shove it down the throat.
That's awesome. Has the leverage of the Facebook group, because I think that is kind of like your biggest audience, right? Has the
Yeah.
leverage of the Facebook group allowed you to get like free hotels or
Oh,
leverage you into
absolutely.
other opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a standard template letter that, like, let's say if I'm doing a group trip and I want to go to Johannesburg. I'll look up a list of hotels, and then I'll take, let's say, like 3 hotels, and I got this standard template letter, and I'll fire off that letter. And the letter basically says, "Hey, who I am, the travel junkie. I'm a blogger. I'm a moderator in a group that has 25,000 people, another group that has 6,000 people. I've done trips here, I've done trips there. We've sold out hotels, and a lot of times when people see that letter, they'll come back and say, "Oh, okay, yeah." So let's say if they had a room and it was $1,000 a night, they may give it to me for 650. So yeah, so it helps, and I've definitely leveraged it.
I believe it. I saw you had a tweet recently that's also the name of the podcast, and you said something like layovers build character, or I forget how it's phrased. What's that all about?
So every year, minus the pandemic years, every year my business partner and I, we host a Travel Junkies Black Friday flight deals. Because as you know, in the States, Thanksgiving is pretty big. Right after
Hmm.
Thanksgiving, there's Black Friday where everybody does their shopping and all of that, right? So we realized years ago that it's not only just, hey, I want to go get a TV, or hey, I want to get a new microwave and all of that. Airlines and hotels, they have deals on Black Friday as well. So the very first call years ago, we were hosting, and we had the Black, the Travel Junkies presents the Black Friday flight deals call. And how it works is we put up a bridge like this, and then we log into the call, and it'll be people from all over the globe. And so we'll open the bridge, let's say like at 9 p.m. Eastern time, just for everybody to get situated. And then about 10 p.m. Eastern time, all the way to like 4 in the morning, we're just on there catching deals, and like somebody will jump on and say, "Hey, I'm trying to go XYZ." And then we'll have myself, and then we got another guy that sits in Amsterdam, and we'll all jump on and just start scouring the net and finding deals, right? And then once we find the deals, the people will just shoot us their credit card info, and bam, we'll book it for them. Or we'll give them the link and they'll go book it themselves. So how Layovers Build Character came about, we had a young lady, her name is Ty Travels, TAI Travels. And she has a blog, the whole lot. And so she was on the call, and she was in New York at the time. And so we were looking to go somewhere. I think it was like Australia or something. And she was on the call, and we were talking about, oh yeah, we can find the flight. We found one. It has like 2 layovers here, this, that. And she said, I don't want to do a layover. I mean, what's the point of doing a layover? And when she said, what's the point of doing a layover? I just immediately blurted out, layovers build character. And then my business partner was like, we need to put that on a t-shirt. And then we just have been rocking that ever since. So that's one of our things. Layovers build character, so.
I like it. I like it. So the podcast is the Layover Podcast. I noticed a new episode hasn't come out in a while. Are you going to keep going with that?
Yeah. So that's one of the other things. Like I said, I got the company working on my website, and I'm actually doing taping now with some people, and I have like 3 in the can right now. So once I get my website, I'm going to drop these 3. And then I got some people that I'm scheduled to interview like in the coming weeks as well, too. So yeah, season 2 of the Layover Podcast is definitely coming, and you can catch it on like Spotify as well as any other podcasts like Google Podcasts, all of that stuff like that. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Dope. Well, I'm down if you ever want to have me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I got to return the favor. I got to get you on, man. Yeah.
Sounds good. So yeah, man, we're just wrapping up. Obviously, Craig, super appreciate your time, especially on a day where you're just coming in from a flight. Anything you want to promote, plug, this is the time.
Hey man, listen, I want to promote and plug traveling. Everybody should travel. If you haven't started traveling, you should start traveling. If you are traveling, go back and grab somebody that's not traveling and put them on. Because like I said, the world is a beautiful place. You learn so much when you get out of your comfort zone, whether you live in the States, whether you live in Europe or any of the Americas. You learn so much when you go see it yourself and go see how other people live around the world. It's probably one of the greatest educational lessons that you could ever have, better than any book, better than any classroom, better than even word of mouth of somebody telling you. Go see it for yourself. And if you want to get plugged in and go see it, come and talk to me. That's what I do, the Travel Junkee. And you can catch me at my website, thetraveljunkie.com, TheTravelJunkee.com. And like I said, you can catch us on Facebook. IG is the same thing, and Twitter is the same thing as well, too.
Awesome. And we're going to link all that in the show notes to this.
Yep.
So people definitely are going to have to go check it out. Man, the vibe is contagious. You definitely have like an infectious energy, and you make me want to travel, and I'm already traveling.
Right, man. That's the point. You got to get out there and get it, man. Yeah.
For sure. And dude, I can tell you're really like a salt of the earth guy, like a genuine guy. So just want to thank you again. This has been a really good conversation.
Hey, thanks, Vance. I appreciate you having me on, man. And like I said, we'll be in touch. Like I said, we're on Twitter. And then, like I said, I got you now. So we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to collaborating in the future.
Yep, absolutely.